Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to walk through some basic fixed asset transactions in Business Central. I'll show you how to purchase a fixed asset, how to depreciate it correctly, and finally how to dispose of an asset when it's no longer needed. This tutorial is ideal if you're new to Business Central or want a clear practical understanding of how fixed assets work in the system from initial purchase through to disposal. We'll focus on the core processes used in real finance environments, keeping everything simple and easy to follow. So let's get started. So here we are in Business Central. First thing I'm going to do is have a look at the fixed asset list. So I'm going to search for fixed assets. And that brings up the fixed asset list view. You'll see on here that we have an acquired column over here, which is ticked. So if an asset has got any acquisition cost against it already, then it is flagged as acquired. That tick box isn't editable. So you can only, that will only get flagged if you actually post some acquisition cost against the asset. So you can see here, I've got vehicle number 2 isn't acquired yet. So let's go and purchase that. So if I search for purchase invoices, and we will create a new one. Select the vendor we want to purchase from. And then in the line section, I need to change the type to the fixed asset. Then when I click into the number field, it's going to load up all of the fixed assets that we've got in the system. Now, the reason it's loading up ones that are already acquired is that you can post multiple acquisition costs against an asset. So that could be from the same or multiple suppliers. So I'll select vehicle number 2, quantity and a value. Okay, and then we'll just post that asset. Okay, purchase invoice is posted. So if we now go back to the fixed asset list, we can see that asset is now acquired. Okay, so if I now open up the asset card, then I can click on the book value here, and it will show me that acquisition cost. It should show me the invoice that we posted on the 1st of the 1st, 27. So that is how we can purchase the fixed asset via purchase document. Another common scenario is where you might have had some CapEx purchase cost that's gone into the GL by mistake. So you can either then reverse out that transaction and then repost the invoice, or you could use the fixed asset general journal to move that. Okay, so if we search for fixed asset GL journal, so what I could do is that I could process a journal line, change the account type to fixed asset again, similar to what I did on the invoice, select my vehicle. I then need to select the fixed asset posting type so the system knows what kind of transaction this is. So it would be acquisition cost. And then just take these out. So let's say I had £5,000 that had accidentally gone to a GL account as an expense instead. I could then find that GL account. So say it's gone to other vehicle expenses. And then we can then post that. Okay, so the journal's been posted. And if I go back now and have a look at vehicle 2 again, you'll see that the book value is now increased to 15,000. And we can see the journal line that went through there. Okay, so it's just another way that we can get acquisition cost onto the assets. Okay, so that is how to acquire our fixed assets. The next thing we need to think about is depreciating them. Okay, so if we come back up to the fixed asset list view, there is a calculate depreciation button here. So I'm going to click on that, and we've got a number of options to complete. So we've got the depreciation book. In this system, we've only got one running, so we make sure that's selected. We then select the posting date for the depreciation. This is very important because depreciation is always calculated in Business Central in days. So if I run this now on the 1st of the 1st, it's going to, and we'd already processed depreciation up to the end of December 26, it's going to calculate me 1 day of depreciation. Okay, so really important here that I change that date to be the end of the month. Okay. We then need to give it a document number. I've already pre-populated that, and a posting description. Okay, so just so that when we look back at the GL entries, we can tell what it was for. Then another thing sort of important thing to think about is the fact that we've still got these conveyor belt assets down here, cargo lift switchboard, so some manufacturing assets. They aren't acquired yet. Okay, so if I try to depreciate them, it won't work. So I'm going to add a filter on here to say we're acquired is yes, just to make sure that we don't hit any roadblocks. So okay that now, and it's told me that the depreciation has been calculated and it has created 10 fixed asset GL journal lines, and would I like to open the journal? So I'll click yes, and there we can then see per asset, so asset 10, 20, 100 and so on and so forth, how much depreciation it's calculated, and that's now ready to post. Okay, and some of these assets were sort of demo ones that are a bit older, so the depreciation days is quite long, and then we've got the ones that I created in the previous tutorial, which have only got 30 days. So we can check that now and then post the depreciation journal. Okay, so if I now go back into my fixed asset list, I could look at vehicle 2 and look at the book value. And we can now see the depreciation that we entered. Okay, again, depreciation is always in days, so we can check that. If anything looks, let's say we had accidentally processed just for 1 day, we could then see that we'd only processed 1 day of depreciation. So the next thing we need to think about is disposing of fixed assets. Okay, so that can be done in a couple of ways. So if I now wanted to sell this vehicle, okay, so I'd agreed that I wanted to sell it, I'd simply just raise a sales invoice. So I'll search for sales invoice and we'll create a new one. Select the customer I want to sell the vehicle to. Again, same as we did on the purchase invoice, I'm going to select fixed asset as a line type and then find vehicle 2. Okay. I'm going to sell that for 10,000. And when you sell that, it's going to remove the cost to date, the depreciation to date, and then it's going to calculate the profit or loss based on how much I sold it for. Okay. Now I'm going to try posting that now. And you'll see that I've actually got an error. Okay, so the disposal date of fixed asset code FA20 must be the last date in the depreciation book code. So what that's telling me is that because I've depreciated that asset up to the end of January, I can't dispose of it at an earlier date. Okay, so that posting date, the earliest day I could dispose of it is the end of the month. Okay, so update that and then post it again. Okay, that's now gone through. So we'll then come back up to our fixed asset list. And if I go and look at vehicle 2 now, you'll see that I've got 0 book value. And when I click into there, we can see we had the initial acquisition cost from the purchase invoice. And then we've got the other 5,000 of acquisition cost that we processed on journal. So the system has taken that back out, so the total cost. We then had the depreciation calculated up to the end of January 27, and the system has taken that out of the depreciation account. And then we've then got the £10,000 proceeds and the gain or loss calculated all for us. Okay. The other way we could dispose of an asset is if we were going to write it off. Okay. So in that situation, we sold that vehicle, but let's say vehicle 1 has been involved in an accident. So it's only got a current book value of £146, but I'm not going to sell it. I just want to remove it from my fixed asset ledger. So the way I can do that is with a journal again. So we'll look for the fixed asset GL journals. Again, the posting date will have to be the last date up to we transacted depreciation. So we can set that to be the end of January again. Account type will be fixed asset. Account number is vehicle 1. And the FA to posting type this time then is going to be disposal. Okay. Just take these out. So that's now done. I always find this a little bit misleading because we don't actually need to process anything additional on this journal line. If we had got a nominal sort of scrap value for it, we could enter that in as an amount. But let's say we've literally just scrapped this vehicle off. We haven't got anything for it. So I can just post that journal as it is. Okay, so the journal successfully posted. And if we now go back and look at vehicle number 1, and I go and look at the book value, you can see here that we had the initial acquisition cost of 250, which is now removed, the depreciation to date, which is now removed, and the whole remaining book value has been written off to the loss account that's mapped on the fixed asset posting setup. And that brings us to the end of this overview of basic fixed asset transactions in Microsoft Business Central. We've covered how to purchase fixed assets, run depreciation, and dispose of assets correctly in the system. If you found this helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more practical Business Central tutorials. If you've got any questions or topics you'd like me to cover next, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.